Good evening, you're watching WION. I'm Sana Khan. Over the next couple of minutes, we talk about the story emerging from the country of Bangladesh, where the capital Dhaka has been witnessing a fresh religious controversy, this time over the Statue of Justice outside of the Supreme Court. Islamist groups like Hifazat-e-Islam have raised an objection to the statue of the Lady of Justice. The fringe groups called for the removal of the statue, saying that it was an example of idol worship, which is forbidden in Islam. This following continued protests by the fringe groups, the Supreme Court finally decided to remove the statue and move it to another place within the court's premises. Meanwhile, a group of students who protested against the removal of the statue, they have now been arrested and booked for attempt to murder, while the fringe group is allowed a free run in Bangladesh. The liberal voices are facing a crackdown. Does this new row then indicate growing religious intolerance in the country? Let's also tell our viewers, as we discuss this further, there has been no official comment from either the court or the government, but the Attorney General, Mahbub-e-Islam, has said that the statue's removal was a decision of the court. The statue has been the target of angry, swelling protests by groups like Hifazat-e-Islam. Let's get in WION's Pratyush Dubey for more details into the story emerging from Bangladesh. Pratyush, what exactly has happened over here? We do know there has been no official comment from either the court or the government.
He's been tracking this story for us in Dhaka, joining us on the broadcast, and he'll be able to give us more details of what's happening there. But Sana, the facts as we know it is that this group, Hifazat-e-Islam, is a group that is seen by the critics of the Sheikh Hasina government as an organization that has been strategically backed by a government. So on the one hand, while we had recent incidents where the Hasina government has pointed out that they have cracked down on radicals in the country, you have a few fringe elements who have managed to escape this kind of a crackdown, and Hifazat-e-Islam is one of them. Other critics of the Sheikh Hasina government point out that she has in the past used her position as a prime minister to sort of influence the nature of this country, and a case in point would be her comment when this case really came to the fore, where she had said that why would a statue of a Greek goddess Themis be set up in Bangladesh. She was, of course, referring to a statue of the Justice that adorned the foyer of the Supreme Court in Dhaka. And also remember that this statue was put up, it was more than a 2.5-ton stainless steel sculpture which had elements of stone and bronze. It was put up at a cost of rupees 14 lakh rupees, and just 5 months ago, and it was critically acclaimed by several people, and many people had said that this was done in good taste. However, the Hifazat-e-Islam as an organization has been threatening the court and its officers with violence should they not cover this statue up. But we saw no action taken against them. On the other hand, we had reports coming out that at least 4 students who were protesting yesterday were charged with attempt to murder, and as well as serious charges such as terrorism.
Right. Thanks so much, Pratyush, for joining us there with all those details. Joining me live right now is WION's Bangladesh Bureau Chief, Saad Hamadi, as well. Saad, Sheikh Hasina, we were talking about the fact that a couple of weeks ago, she described the statue, she signaled that she supported its removal as well. Did her statement give more steam to these protests?
Sana, it comes very familiar with what the Islamists, the hardline Islamists, have been demanding over the last 5 months, that this sculpture be removed. When Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has shared her own remarks saying that she personally disliked the sculpture, it went in the same direction and line as these hardline Islamists have been demanding, and they have in fact thanked Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and the government for obliging or complying with their conditions that it be removed from the place. That has come as a shock to many eminent citizens, the cultural activists, educationists, academicians, jurists, who themselves practice in the Supreme Court over there. They have said that they see this as a symbol of justice and impartiality. Now, this removal, on the contrary, comes as a sign of giving in to hardline Islamist sentiments in the country.
Right. In fact, Barrister Sara Hussain, she's a top lawyer in the Bangladesh Supreme Court. She's joining us live right now. Sara, thanks so much for speaking with us here. How do you see this removal of the statue, that has taken place? Do you see this as an endorsement of the, government or the court as such?
No, I think this is an absolute attack on justice, on the principle of justice and the institutions of justice. The Attorney General, Mr. Mahbub Alam, has claimed that this is an order of the court. If it is an order, it is an administrative order. It's not part of any kind of judicial proceeding. And if it is an order, it's come on the back of continuous threats by a group called the Hifazat-e-Islami, which has been entertained by the Prime Minister, and where the Prime Minister herself has said that she objects to this statue and doesn't find it appropriate. And where today the Law Minister has said that he does not think...
Right. Sara, we can hear you.
Yes, sorry, it just went off. Well, the Law Minister today has said that he feels that this is not even an appropriate depiction of Themis, the goddess of justice. Completely bizarre remarks, frankly, because it is a depiction of a universal image of justice, which has come down to us from the Greeks, but has been adopted by many, many countries. And these attempts to depict it first as foreign rather than international and universal, and secondly as an idol rather than an embodiment of a universal principle in a statue, what are really problematic. And the fact that the government authorities and high officials, including ministers, and very, very sadly the Prime Minister herself, have given space to the Hifazat and encouraged them, is what is incredibly disturbing. And they've done it, we believe, in order to undermine our Supreme Court, to undermine the Chief Justice, and to undermine lawyers and judges.
Right. In fact, these are powerful visuals of this statue being taken down in front of the Supreme Court, so to speak. Saad, coming back to you, many say that this is clearly a defeat for the freedom-loving secular people of the country. And looking at this particular act, it would lead to a much broader campaign to purge art from the country.
Many civilians and in the country, many citizens who have said that this removal shows how Bangladesh is largely falling in line with hardline Islamist groups. The Hifazat-e-Islami, for instance, has been demanding the removal of this sculpture, saying that it's a Greek goddess, whereas the sculptor himself has said that this sculpture, which he has designed in a sari clad, can in no way represent a Greek goddess because of the attire itself, which is highly in line with the culture of South Asia and Bangladesh, so to speak. So this whole saga of installing this sculpture at the Supreme Court with the permission of the court and the government, and right now the government taking it off, so shows how the government has fallen to some extent of these demands of hardline Islamist groups.
Right. Sara, coming back to you, do you think this is a larger issue which we've seen in Bangladesh in the recent past, the rising tensions between Islamic conservatism and the liberal values in Bangladesh?
I think to some degree it's that, but I think it's something even more disturbing. I think it's a state which claims, and an executive which claims that it upholds secularism and it speaks for secular values and liberal values, actually entering into an incredibly unholy and what is an expedient political alliance with the forces of religious extremism and medieval ideology. I think that's what's really disturbing. Of course, those who believe in liberal, secular and progressive values are contesting this. But the government which claims to represent those values is actually allying with these extremist forces. And I think it's doing it not only because perhaps it thinks it's going to win votes, but more importantly, because it thinks it's going to defeat the judiciary and an independent judiciary. And it's going to malign the judiciary, and it's going to malign and again reduce the force and the impact of those who speak for independent values of justice.
Right. Saad, coming back to you, give us a little more detail into what is this group Hifazat-e-Islam that we're talking about over here. Of course, Sara made a brief mention about the history of the group and the backing that it has.
Hifazat Islam has come off as a very large faction of Islamists in the country since 2013. Although they have existed for a longer time, they origin from the Chittagong area of Bangladesh, Chittagong district of Bangladesh, sorry to say, and they come quite large in number with their existence since, particularly in 2013, when they have campaigned with 13-point demands, which also were quite suppressing on the rights of women empowerment, among many other issues. Now, many in the country believe, including jurists, that Hifazat's rise to popularity has come off as the government aiming to secure a vote bank of these Islamist groups as the election is also approaching in 2019. So that is probably one of the reasons that is viewed as giving Hifazat this leeways of whatever demands they are making.
All right. And Sara, how do you see this playing out in the days to come, the repercussions of what we've seen in the past couple of hours?
Well, last night, a number of protesters tried to approach the Supreme Court to protest against this act of removing the statue. They were students, young progressive activists. They were stopped by the police, subjected to water cannons, and now they have been held for almost 2 full days on charges including rioting, unlawful assembly, and unbelievably and absurdly, attempt to murder. You should note the fact that no action whatsoever has been taken against the Hifazat, who have made continuous threats and incitement to violence against the Supreme Court members, judges, and the Chief Justice himself. The state has totally failed to act. The police have not taken any action against the Hifazat, but they have immediately swung into action with these preposterous charges of attempt to murder against these young protesters who tried to speak up for liberal and progressive values yesterday.
All right. Thanks so much, Sara Hussain, for joining us here and giving us a perspective on the developments in Bangladesh. I'd also like to thank our Bangladesh Bureau Chief Saad Hamadi for joining us with the very latest on this story.